Hey cats, it's Ed Fontana Bud here. Today I have a review of the sequel of a shoe that people really enjoyed from 2020. In fact, only the Saucony Endorphin Speed was more enjoyed than the ASICS NOVABLAST. Lots of fun facilitating foam in this follow-up. A new updated upper and better laces. Let's strap ourselves in and prepare for liftoff. Thanks for joining me today guys, it's very much appreciated as always. An initial review today for you of the ASICS NOVABLAST 2. This is a shoe that I've purchased with my own Earth credits. So my humble and honest opinions as always. If you haven't done so yet, help the channel out by hitting that subscribe button and clicking the bell below for notifications when we launch those new videos for you. It also really helps us out if you grab some merchandise as well. There are links below. Helps to fund the purchase of new shoes to review. It keeps that whole cycle going. I reviewed the original version of the ASICS NOVABLAST back in 2020. I didn't really like it all that much to start with, but the more I ran in the shoe, the more we became partners, like Batman and Robin. But I mean like the 60s version. Just felt a little bit unstable to start with, but it firmed up a little bit over time. And I was a bit sad actually to stop running in it. I have this time gone a half size down, so I've gone for a 10.5 UK. I had an 11 in the previous version of the shoe. It was just a little too long for me, that one. ASICS shoes mostly tend to be a little long. Too much room in the toe box. This one appears to be no exception. If I'd gone for a UK 11 it would have been massive up front. So I gave the original a 10.2 out of 12 on my 100-mile review. So how does the V2 hold up? The second version of the NOVABLAST is slightly more lightweight in the toe box area. Doesn't feel quite so thick to me. That's a real boon actually at the moment because it's baking hot here in the UK. As I said, if I'd gone for an 11 it would have been way too generous in the toe box, but here I've got a nice fit. It's a good equilibrium between saving a bit of weight and also decreasing the length of the shoe. I think where they've reduced the upper very slightly, they've been able to add a little bit of extra foam, but also add a little bit of extra structure to the heel area of the shoe. And a pull tab as well, because it's really useful on this shoe. I'm going to cut it off. The tongue, despite being a little less padded than the first version, actually a lot more padded than I remember the first one. It's much better shaped here now, and it also benefits from having that gusseting on either side of the shoe. Just wraps around the foot a little more and the fit just feels a lot more controlled, I suppose. The laces now have a more premium feel. They're a bit more zesty. Not so much cheese cutter, but fine wine. They were really nasty, the ones in the first shoe. They were really nasty, the ones in the first version of the shoe, and I'm glad to see that they're gone. Glad to see I go. So very unnecessary pull tab, and I've got to say I still found the upper a little bit warm today. I'm not sure exactly how warm it was in the morning, but it was still toasty. Quick shout out to Kev Burton and to Paul Card. I saw them both out there today. How you doing guys? Still a little warm I guess around the sides and the top of the foot. Toe box was okay though. And I had really thin socks on. An initial 8-mile effort today, which is 12.87 kilometers. That tongue stayed put like a soft sentinel. And no lace malarkey was needed whatsoever. Just tied them up and ran. And it was fun. As I say, almost a thumb's width of room at the front of the shoe, even going a half size down, so be aware that it runs long as per the V1. I gotta say though, it's an improvement over the upper on the first version. Not quite so much dense material in the toe box. I'm going to give it a 2.6 out of 3 for upper after my initial run. Midsole, midsole, midsole now. So the midsole appears almost the same as that in the V1, but they've cut out a few more pieces here in the heel, perhaps to relieve the weight a little bit, I don't know. But to the untrained eye you'll miss the change in the heel stack and the forefoot stack too. I think they've gone from 39mm in the heel of the first version to 43, then there's about 4mm extra foam up here in the toe. So it does adjust the drop a little bit from 10 down to 8. I'd say it is slightly noticeable, especially when you're going at pace. To me now the heel section of the shoe doesn't feel anywhere near as dominating really through the foot strike. Still felt aggressive enough for me today though on alternating pace between an easy sort of sustainable speed up to my half marathon target pace. Yes, it's still somewhat unstable and I wouldn't recommend the shoe for anybody that has any major stability issues, those who pronate in an extreme fashion, this shoe is not for you. You'll probably want to avoid it. I don't think it will work all that well. Maybe my ankles are a little stronger than this time last year, or my form's that little bit better, but it was certainly an enjoyable run in that Blast material. Flight Foam Blast really is just that. Certainly served me well on all paces today. A very versatile Botham style midsole. It can bowl, it can bat, it can field. I have to say conditions were pretty punishing earlier on. It took me longer to get into the groove and get up to those paces, which was more down to me than the shoe, I think. As with the Pegasus 37 and 38, we had an upper change there that made the midsole all that bit better. Just those slight changes to the upper made the midsole way better for me in the Pegasus 38. And that's pretty much the same here in the Novablast 2. Better at a range of speeds this time. It was pretty exciting actually going at a faster pace in the Novablast 2. I'm going to give the midsole a 2.7 out of 3 after my initial runs. Squashy, compressive, and a competitor, I feel, to the Invincible run from Nike. The upper here is way better than that featured on that Nike shoe. Some may disagree, but for me it's the closest thing to the Invincible run that's out there. And it's a bit cheaper. You can tear me to bits in the comments if you want, but that's how I feel. That's what it feels like to me. Outsole now. Beast, again, comes in and causes havoc every single time. Why is it always just about what I'm going to look at the outsole? Now, I'm a little bit worried about the outsole here. We've got some stuff peeling off. It's only from the exposed midsole. I know that my good buddy Tim Gross has had the same issue with his pair of the Novablast 2. Only 8 miles in, there's some aesthetic wear, but nothing on the rubber of the shoe. That didn't occur on the V1 version. Got it just here in fact, and maybe it's something to do with the fact that that foam's painted or there's some sort of layer on it. This wasn't, it's just the uncoloured foam, so that could be it. It's still the impervious AHA rubber here, ASICS high abrasion rubber. We know that this will survive some sort of apocalyptic type situation. There is a bit of a pattern switch up here. It feels like there's a little less rubber in the forefoot area. That could just be me, but looking at it, certainly it feels there's a little bit less. I mean, in fairness, on the first version there was gallons of the stuff, so I don't think we needed all of it. Just as grippy before, obviously only tested in dry conditions, that's all we got right now. Arid, dry, dehydrating conditions. Now the rubber seemed very durable in the last edition of the shoe, so I don't think I can put it down all that much. I think they've sacrificed a little bit more rubber to amplify that trampoline-like effect. And that's what ASICS say about this shoe, not me. Though with that huge cutout section here in the midsole, to me that makes the shoe not a goer for any trail type activities. Anything with any unstable terrain, I don't think it's going to work all that well. It'll just amplify the instability of the shoe. But for what it's designed for, I'm going to give it a 2.7 out of 3 for outsole after my initial run. Value now. So value wise, with the slight changes that they've put into effect, this does feel like a little bit more than a daily shoe to me. ASICS have implemented some very small changes that make a big difference. I mean, at 130 Earth credits UK, it's still a higher price, a little more to spend than the Pegasus 38, for example, that I really enjoyed earlier this year. You got that Velocity Nitro from Puma as well, which comes in even less. And I guess you got to talk about the Energy 3 as well, being in that same price point. All of those make for great daily offerings. I think the better upper fit and connection to the midsole here really does change the nature of the shoe, and it makes it a better bet than the Invincible run for me. Comes in a lot cheaper as well. I do hear people saying that the Invincible run's quite stable, or they find it quite forgiving. Yeah, I can understand about the forgiving nature. I don't feel it all that stable. Just felt like a bit of an energy sponge to me, and like it wasn't really returning a lot of energy. And that's the thing that ZoomX is supposedly famous for. And it was a painful upper as well. Here, we've got a really comfortable upper in the Novablast 2. I can see me using this as I did the Pegasus 38 earlier this year. There's a real range to it. I could put it on if I just want some nice cushion, or if I want to do some faster miles, I know it can handle them. So in terms of value, I think I'm going to give it a 2.7 out of 3 after my initial runs. I don't see it wearing down all that quickly. The first version of the shoe lasted very well. If I've totaled the scores up correctly, that gives us a 10.7 out of 12 after my initial runs for the ASICS Novablast 2. I mean, improvements wise, only a slight reduction in weight. This one comes in a little under my UK size 11 NOVABLAST V1, so I guess if you put it up to the same size, which is only a half up, it'll probably be round about the same weight. I think this one came in about 317 grams. And if they could obviously reduce the price a little bit, that would make it a little bit more attractive. Have you picked this one up, guys? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the NOVABLAST 2 down in the comments. A quick musical interlude for you. I'm not sure what it was that drew me back to watch this film today, but Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of my favourites of all time. The reason I include it here is the soundtrack is jaw-droppingly brilliant. The use of the full orchestra really does provide this incredible feeling of hope, yet sorrow, and it switches between it. It feels like something out of a war film almost. I'm sure John Williams, the composer, did listen to some tracks from that period. You've certainly got things like the Dam Busters in there, and the 633 Squadron as well. It just conjures up this wonderful adventure and magic. I don't think it could be any better. I think it suits the character and also Harrison Ford's portrayal of Indiana Jones in such a great way. It's a wonderful fit. When you watch the film next, guys, just pay attention to that fantastic soundtrack. It really is brilliant. Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Okay, it's time for me to mosey on out here and throw some more ice cubes over my head. Hope you've enjoyed today's video, guys. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications of when I launch those new videos for you. It also helps the channel out a great deal if you give this video a thumbs up like and share it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing you